Now, if you've ever felt like your paintings end up feeling a bit flat or dull or lifeless, or maybe you struggle with colour mixing, can't quite seem to get that colour that you want, this tutorial today is about to change everything for you, because today I'm going to be sharing a process that you can use in all your artworks that's going to inject your paintings with this dynamic energy and colour. It's going to really help you up-level your artwork fast. But before we start that, I have actually created a free lesson for you that I think you're going to love. Because if you've ever felt chained to having to follow tutorials, maybe the moment you attempt to paint something on your own ideas, you just feel like it doesn't quite work. Maybe you've tried painting your own creative ideas or from your own reference photos, but instead of feeling proud of what you've made, you've just ended up feeling more frustrated and stuck and dislike your painting. Now, if that sounds familiar, you're going to love this free art lesson I've made for you. It's called Create Artwork That You Love. Inside, I share the step-by-step process that you really need to create your own artwork in your own style with your own originality, but actually feeling really proud of what you've made. Because here's the thing, artists who are truly dedicated to improving their artwork do take action, and this free lesson is going to be a game changer for your painting skills and the confidence that you have in yourself. So if you've signed up now, amazing. If you haven't, pause this video, go do it now, and then let's move on to the supplies we're going to need for today's tutorial. Brilliant, so I've got like a little canvas board here. I'm going to be using 2 flat brushes. These are actually called Galleria 1 stroke in 2 different sizes, kind of like a larger one and a medium. Then colours, I've got titanium white, primary magenta, but you can also use red or any magenta you want, yellow, phthalo green and phthalo blue. Just use whatever you've got available. Don't feel like you have to use those exact colours. You can definitely tweak bits, and even if it's a different colour, it's only going to add more variety to your painting. I've also got a jar of water here off camera and just an old rag that I'm going to use to take any dampness off of my paintbrush. So what I'm going to do first is just take my brush, just dip it in a bit of water so it's just a bit damp, and I'm going to create a bit of a backdrop on this canvas just to take that whiteness away. To do that, I'm going to use yellow, potentially with just a little bit of the magenta, just to warm it up slightly. I'm going to take some water and I'm just going to pop that down. Now, the reason I'm going to do this is because I want these roses to feel really vibrant and summery, and this is going to be a really nice backdrop. So we're going to be painting over this completely, so don't worry, it doesn't have to look perfect. I'm just taking away that kind of white canvas. And I think having this as the underlayer will just add a beautiful vibrancy to the rest of the layers. You might need to use a little bit more water than normal to help it spread. Okay, and then we're just going to wait for that to dry. It shouldn't take too long because it's the first layer. And then rinse off your brush really well. And just blot any excess onto your towel. So when that's dry, I'm just going to kind of draw out and map out where I want my flowers. For this, I'm going to use the smaller brush, still a flat edge, and I'm just going to start to map out where I kind of want things to be. And what colour should we use to do this? Let's take the red, I think, for this. Not quite as potent as the green. And I'm just going to map out where I want my flowers. I'm going to change things off the reference photo a little bit to suit me. I want my biggest kind of rose here. And this is going to be like the star of the show. So I'm just using like kind of the shape of my brush to map out where I want that main rose. Then I want this little upper rose here, but I'm actually going to make this smaller so that it's not fighting for attention, it's just going to complement. And then I think we could pop this little rosebud down here still. And this is basically just drawing. I'm just sketching in, but I'm using my paint to do so. And then I will pop some of the little roses in the background, but definitely going to have those kind of just going into the background, and we're not going to draw attention to those at all. So that's kind of where I want most of my things. I can even pop in a little bit of the middle of those roses. And this is going to really help me just think about where things are going to go. I can even take my green and kind of think about, maybe I want like the little rose bud here. And this is mainly just for yourself to know where things are going to go. Okay, so as that's drying, I can start to put in my roses now. Now I know it looks a bit scary at the moment. Don't worry about that. We're just building the framework. It's like the framework of a house. We don't want to worry about what the wallpaper's like and whether we've got nice furniture. We're focusing on the framework. This is going to be like the cement, the bones, the structural integrity of our painting. So that's why we're not focusing too much on how it looks right now. But we can start to build up the roses now. So I'm going to look at my reference photo. I'm going to start kind of dividing this up into parts. So to take that center color, I want some of the magenta and a little bit of the yellow to give it a little bit of an orange. And just to tone that down a little bit, I might just take a little bit of the blue and a little bit of the white to create this kind of like peachy tone. And I'm going to just pop that in the center. I'm going to keep this very impressionistic. So that's why I've got a big wide brush. If you want an impressionistic painting, a big wide brush is the way to go. And I'm kind of even going to start squinting at my reference photo and just take a bit of paint, look at my reference photo and put that paint down and then kind of back away, just a stroke at a time. We don't want to do too many blend-ins, and we just want to put a stroke down and then kind of back away. And rather than working on one rose at a time, to keep things kind of harmonious in the colours and the style, I like to work throughout the painting as a whole. So I like to kind of build up the roses together. Okay, next I'm going to take a bit more of the blue and a lot of the white. And I'm going to make a bit of like a purpley colour. Now this is going to be the cool shadow because we've got a lot of warmth there, but we need to balance that with the cool, the other side. And this is what's going to kind of bring it to life. Then these are going to be these petals here. And I know it looks a little bit alarming at first. This is kind of like that shadow side that the sun is not hitting. And this is where you really have to trust your intuition and trust the references that you use, rather than just thinking that you know what it looks like and thinking you know what colours are there. Okay, I'm going to rinse off my brush. I think next what I want to do is add that really like darker tone. So I'm going to take some of my red, a bit of the yellow, again a bit of that blue, just a very small amount. And I'm going to add some of those darker areas in. And then I'm going to rinse off my brush. And you can see it starting to appear now. It's kind of coming together a little bit more. It'll come more and more the more we work on it. Okay, next what I'm going to do is take some of that magenta. I'm going to create kind of like a nice light pink now. A little bit of yellow. So these are going to be like the warmer colours. This is a nice peachy colour with a bit of yellow in. I really like the idea of bringing in this real kind of like creamy colour. To bring a bit of luminosity to the rose. Then I'm going to rinse that off. Okay, I think I'm going to kind of wait for those roses to dry now. They're very abstract, very impressionistic, and I like that. I'm kind of going to take this yellow down a bit now and kind of work on the background a bit. So I feel like the yellow is starting to put me off rather than helping me now. So now's the time to tone that back. It's definitely served its purpose. So I'm going to take some of that phthalo green, and what do we need here? Let's add a bit of yellow, I think, for now. We'll create some of those nice light colours to keep, because we've added this like lovely luminous background, and we can definitely make use of that. I'm not going to add any white because I'd like it to stay quite transparent, and if you add white to it, that kind of can take that transparency away a little bit. So I'm just going to use my brush to add in some abstract shapes here of that really nice luminous green. We don't want to have too much of this because it might be a little bit neon looking, but I think just little pops here and there are nice. And like with this painting, what I really want to inject into it is this luminosity feeling. And having these little short, sharp moments of this lime green are really going to help with that. Lovely. So then I'm just going to rinse off my brush. Let's stick with the lights and take and add a bit of white to that. I've got like just this mixture here. It's kind of like a very light green, bit peachy. Feel free as well to add in your own colours of what you kind of would like to add here. I'm just going to do very kind of abstract brush strokes just to build up the layers. This part is kind of out of focus. I'm just knocking that yellow back. Okay, lovely. I'm just going to rinse off my brush. Now we're going to add in some of those darker greens to provide a bit of like a base for these roses to kind of be on, because at the minute they're kind of floating around a little bit. So let's take some of the phthalo green. I'm going to add in just a little bit more blue, and I'm going to add a little bit of the magenta. Bit more green to get this nice dark turquoise. I might add just a little bit of green, of yellow, just to bring in that greeny feeling. Yeah, this is perfect. That's lovely. So whatever colours you're using, even if you're using the same names as me, we all are going to mix colours slightly differently. So don't worry too much about getting my exact colour. Just kind of go with what you really like and what you feel drawn to. And I'm going to use the shape of my brush now to block in some of those shapes around the petals. So I'm looking at my reference photo and kind of carving into the shapes. And now this is kind of another little hack for drawing. So rather than just painting in the subject, we can also then use the negative space to kind of carve back into it. And this is another reason why I really like these flat edge brushes, because you can take it up to the line and kind of pull it back. And it creates just a really nice effect with the kind of impressionistic style that we're going for. And you'll notice that I'm not kind of meticulously doing an outline and then kind of all blending it together. Each kind of brush stroke is just very short, sharp, decisive, and then pulling it back, pulling it away. And then you can also use the brush like perpendicular to the canvas and kind of just move it around to create a nice bit of texture. I'm going to be going over this, but it's just pulling back that yellow, which is quite bright. And just pop in these little kind of background moments that are happening. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I think there needs to be a bit more going on down here. So whilst we've got this mixture, I'm going to kind of recreate it. So it was phthalo green, the red. I might create a very dark colour actually here. Phthalo green, red, bit of blue. Just to build up where these stalks and the leaves. And anywhere I feel like there just needs to be a bit more definition or contrast. Okay, that's lovely. I'm really liking how playful this feels. So actually, whilst I have this colour still on my brush, I'm going to add a little bit of white to that to create this nice highlight. It's kind of like a blue highlight, and I can see some like little moments where the kind of sun has caught the light on some of these leaves. So what's really nice here as well, we have such a mixture of greens because we have the lime yellowy green, and then we have the green that's kind of the other side of the green on the colour wheel, which is this bluey green, and having this nice mixture of both used in a very careful way, of course, not just carelessly. We've used these colours to tell a story. One is sunlit and one is cool, one is shadow. And when you kind of use both of these in this way, it creates this beautiful, beautiful mix of greens, but in a very delicate way. That's great. I don't want to tell too much of a story around the leaves. I want to keep them pretty abstract because I want the roses to be the focus. So I'm just going to rinse off my brush now. This is a great moment to take stock because most likely our paintings will look very different. I'm just kind of looking at mine, and there's a certain luminosity I really like to it because of these cool and warm shadows. But of course, I feel like the roses do need a bit more detail. So I'm going to approach this very carefully right now. In fact, I think what I might do is just finish off these background roses because they're kind of bugging me the way they are. And it's hard for me to tell how I really feel about the painting because I know they're not finished. So I'm going to create a pink using white and magenta. And this is quite a cool pink. I'm going to add a couple moments on these. And of course, I'm not going to do this exact because I want them to be a little bit blurry, and that's fine. And then I'm going to add, to warm that up a bit for the background, I'm going to add a bit of yellow and some white to kind of just mix that into where the sun is coming through for those roses. And then I want to recreate this kind of mid magenta. So I'm going to take some of the magenta, some of the yellow. But I am going to add a little bit of blue into that. Oh, that was quite a lot of blue. That's fine. It's like a dull, kind of like a dull peach. And I'm just going to pop that in again just to bring back the shape of those flowers. Then what I might do is just use, ooh, just got paint on there. I might just use my bigger brush to make sure it's dry and kind of blend these around together a little bit. So I just want it to go into the background basically. I'll let that dry, perhaps might add just a few little highlights and things there. And you can see that I'm totally ignoring the rosettes on the reference photo up here. I'm totally ignoring that because actually I really like having an odd number, and at the minute there's 5 roses, and I like keeping an odd number, and also I feel like sometimes less is more. The reference photo feels a little bit busy to me. Okay, so let's have a little think about how we can polish off these roses then. I want to create kind of like a baby pink now to add in some of those highlights. So taking some white and some magenta. I'm going to work through my reference photo and pop in some of those little highlights. Still going to keep it very impressionistic using the shape of my brush. Sometimes I may use the corner of my brush to pop in a little highlight. Sometimes I might just use the side of it. This is where it feels more like a collaboration between me and the brush, which is really nice because I like the little happy accidents that come of it and that happen from using the brush this way. Okay, I'm going to do the same for this rose up here. Okay, I'm going to do a similar thing but with the more warmer highlight too. So I'm going to add white with yellow with a tiny bit of the magenta. to kind of bring in those sunlit petals again. And you can see that on this edge, it's almost like white with the sunlight. Oh, and I might just also take that same colour just at the little edges here as well for these roses in the background. And then I'm just going to wait for that to completely dry now. So this is a great time to have a little break, have a coffee, just keep looking at your painting, think about what is bugging you or needs changing. To be honest, there's way more things that you could do with this painting, but for the sake of a YouTube video that isn't going to go on for 5 hours, which is probably how long I'd spend if I was doing this and not filming, there's just a few bits that I think could improve it quickly. One of the bits is, as I've kind of stepped back, I'm seeing some like little shadow bits that could do with adding. So to do that, I'm just mixing like a very cool pink, purpley pink. For example, like this little highlight didn't make sense, so I'm getting rid of that. I was also thinking that actually this petal is a bit too high, so I'm going to take some of the phthalo green. I'm going to add a bit of the yellow because this needs to be kind of like that limey green. I'm going to knock it back a little bit with some magenta so it's not like super bright, but I'm going to carve back into this rose again a little bit. I've realised that petal I think is a bit too big. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So this is the thing, you kind of just going in and out of the painting and seeing what you feel needs to be changed. I also want the centre of this flower to feel less bright, so I'm going to take some of that magenta, add a bit of yellow. And because that's translucent, I'm not going to add any white, but I just want to kind of go over some of those parts there just to give that a bit more depth in the centre. And I might take that, especially down the sides of the rose as well. And because I've changed the shape of that rose, I'm also going to take some of the yellow and some of the white just to finish off some of those like little petals where the sunlight's hitting. Maybe even just a little bit of white here and there. And also I did think with the light source, it'd be nice for this area to be a little bit more vibrant with some light yellow, so that it really feels like kind of the sun or a light source is kind of coming in from this direction. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed seeing this come together and how kind of like those cool shadows and warm shadows can really play off each other to give a feeling and a kind of atmosphere into your painting. Oh, thank you so much for painting this along with me today. That was loads of fun. And whether you did follow along with a brush and create your own work, or if you just sat and enjoyed watching the process unfold, I truly appreciate you taking that time with me today. I hope you found at least one golden nugget in today's lesson that's going to help you on your painting journey. Let me know in the comments what your biggest aha moment was, and if you post your painting online, make sure to tag me in at Katie Jobling Art. And if you're really an action taker who is truly ready to up-level your artwork and finally create those paintings that you love, make sure you do sign up for the free workshop, Create Artwork You Love. The link is below in the comment section. And together we're going to map out a clear path for you to start seeing dramatic improvement in your paintings and finally start to feel confident in your skills. So I'm so excited to join you on this journey, and I can't wait to see you inside the lesson. See you there!